without some beauty in one's life as a regular experience or practice, most people will find it hard to maintain the spiritual level of peace or rest in the midst of their very active lives. And in our time, life in the West, at least, is becoming more active, more frenetic, noisier, more intrusive from information, most of which is negative, so that our poor little psyches are battered day and night with information, news, noise, and an accelerating pace, which one wonders whether the pace is to keep up with reality or to run away from it. In any case, I'm reminded of a peace activist during the time of Vietnam War and other wars. He was always getting himself in jail from trespassing on federal property. And so he would spend a good deal of the year in jail, which is perhaps one of the worst environments on earth, because it's always noisy and there is no beauty easily at hand. So it's an intense experience of human misery for most inmates. And he used to say, when he visited the monastery, that he needed to come to Snowmass where the mountains are significant, beautiful, and the colors are exquisite in so many directions. And he said that he couldn't continue this demanding ministry of witnessing to peace, and getting arrested and being assigned to jail. I imagine he spent most of the year in jail, and then when he got out, he would come to the monastery and live monastic life with us, because he said, I can't keep this up without some experience or proportion of beauty in my life. Just looking at the mountains is a relief for me, and being in an intentional community of love and service, simple work, fellowship, all of these things were refreshing for him and gave him not only the courage but the psychological strength and resources to go back to bang on the doors of federal or industrial, military complexes of one sort or another. And that really inspired me to realize that a place for beauty every day in our life is part of the spiritual journey. Because how can you know God, who is beauty itself, without some experience of it? So in these few moments, let's take a quick look at some of the levels of beauty, all of which are interrelated and perhaps rely on each other, and to separate them is only for the sake of emphasizing perhaps aspects of the one reality of what is characterized by beauty, seems to me, is a great capacity for receptivity. This is not passivity. Receptivity, as John of the Cross says, is what contemplative prayer actually is. Sheer receptivity. But not, as I say, a passivity, but rather a certain welcoming, friendly attitude towards what is being received. It's an alert receptivity, an eager receptivity without being anxious. And the more total this is, the more profound is the refreshment and healing. Because one of the themes I think that has been made, emphasized during our conference here together, is the gratuity of contemplation, the exquisite hospitality, so to speak, of God, that has called us into being and to be guests at the divine table of eternal life, the banquet of heaven, as it's sometimes called. Everything important in our lives, if you think about it, is characterized by its gratuity. The planet, the air, food, friends, people, family, the spiritual life itself, and ultimately the closeness of God. The closeness of God, the source of all beauty. So we can say that we need some beauty, and where will we find it? It depends, of course, on what your cultural conditioning is, and education and disposition. But for some, the beauty will be through the eyes, the beauty of nature, or through the ears, the beauty of music, or through the other senses that we happen to be particularly developed in. Now, besides material beauty, which is very refreshing, is emotional beauty. Feel compassion, which is perhaps the most advanced of human emotions, or that humans are capable of. It's referred to in the text as seeing the good in others, or loving the good in others, or serving the good in others. God serving God in others. God in us serving God in others. But there are other wonderful emotions that are so beautiful. And then there is mental beauty, beauty of art or literature, poetry. Somehow we need to find that which is most conducive to our need for beauty, and to emphasize that someplace with some frequency in our lives. Spiritual beauty is even greater, and perhaps the most prominent expression of that is the beauty, the moral beauty of the sacrifice of Abraham, for instance, which goes on in everybody's life in some degree. And that is the sacrifice of Isaac, the symbol of what Abraham loved most. And the beauty is in the devotion to God that was willing to let go of what Abraham loved most in this world in order to experience or to manifest a still greater love. And this, of course, is the love that's manifested in the Paschal mystery, where the Father empties himself of what he most loves. The Father is the real Abraham, and sacrifices his beloved Son in order, what shall we say, to give up love for love's sake. Perhaps this is the greatest beauty of all beauties, to see someone letting go of what they most love for a greater good of all humanity, or the healing of the world, and other ways of putting it. But for us who are struggling with the daily ups and downs of life, or with difficult service or ministries, or family affairs, or professional difficulties, or worrying about the future of the country or the world or of our church, etc., we need to stop thinking at times. And like that peace activist I mentioned, realize that we must take some time to sink into that beauty that most appeals to us, or of which we're most capable of perceiving, or rising to meet in certain extreme circumstances. And just to be bathed in beauty. This is to be receptive of the mystery of God that is impossible to put into one word, but beauty is a very umbrella-like or extensive word. Spaciousness is beauty. Freedom is beauty. Music, of course, is beauty, and nudges the spiritual level of our being, perhaps closer than almost anything else. But there is one thing more beautiful than music, or the most beautiful kind, and that is silence. Silence is the most beautiful of the most beautiful of the most beautiful. When it is complete, when, like Elijah on Mount Oreb, God passes by, unloading his beauty upon us in the form of the sound of sheer silence. That's the translation of that text. So nothing is more beautiful than to be still. And as the psalmist says, to be still is to know that I am God. And so this is not just to receive beauty, but to become beauty, and to be beauty, not by one's own effort, but by allowing God to radiate his beauty on any one of those levels, or all of them together, by bringing into everyday life the silence that is stronger than noise, that is more refreshing than anything else that we can receive. And it's this balance of beauty and action and facing the contradictions or opposition or persecution or noise or of daily life, or of the insensitivity of other people to beauty. This is to be grounded in silence, which is to be grounded in God, which is to be grounded in the unquenchable, irresistible, fascinating attraction of God's presence, which is beauty, and beyond beauty, greater than beauty. So from this conference, please make up your mind to be faithful to cultivating silence and to use those means that are particularly powerful for you to experience the receptivity, or to be encouraged in the receptivity of what strikes you as beautiful in life. Have a time, for instance, just to watch the sunset, or a cloud, or a tree, if you can find one in the city, or to see a cow. We're getting into total urbanization, where some people have no exposure to the immediacy of creation the way other generations have had. So you have to somehow find beauty in a traffic light, or a pothole, or something else. But you have to be pretty good, keen on the beauty, to be able to see it anywhere and everywhere all the time. But some time to listen to music or poetry. Not a lot of time, but just enough. And I noticed even in this hotel, which is, so up to date and so a la mode, and on the local television set, I was so pleased to find, it's the first hotel I ever found this, you can try it if you have time before you leave. There's a program just of sights or sounds, no dialogue, just these gorgeous scenes of nature and water flowing and snow and the little very delicate music in the background. That's what I mean. Just if you can't see a mountain or a tree, there now is the possibility of seeing a picture with high definition. I could see the dewdrops on the flower. And whoever the photographer was, I think it came from a Native American tradition. It was exquisite. And just to look at that and not think about it, just receive it. This is what quiets the brain. Receptivity is another section of the brain than thinking. And it's the one where contemplation is born. So the training oneself to receive, which is to do nothing but receive, would heal a lot of our emotional wounds and the badgering of all the media and thoughts and worries. And just a little dose of that from time to time, especially when one is upset or emotionally concerned. Get your own DVD and put up there what is most delightful for you. And this might be something useful, but even more powerful and would be to be faithful to your period of centering prayer, so that you sit down and really receive the sound of sheer silence. No thinking, no reflecting, no expectations, no thought of yourself as praying or meditating. Just do it. Just let the silence or the presence of God, which is almost synonymous with silence, rise up in you or sink into it or rest in it. This is the meaning of the Sabbath in the Jewish tradition. A time just to receive. There's a time for action, but without the time to receiving, we won't have much resources to keep up the actions that are required or imposed upon us in our generation. So peace be with you. May the Sabbath find its home in you. May you find rest every time you sit down and refreshment. May you experience that silence that is beyond thoughts, that is not disturbed by thoughts, which comes from humility, that is to say, the letting go of desires to feel silence or feel beauty. Just receive it. No judgment. And then to take that silence as far as you have the grace to do so, and not be afraid to plunge into the activities that you may be involved in. And you will then be able to do it without attachment, which is what wears you out and which will burn you out if you don't get enough balance, refreshment. But not just any kind of leisure time, but the wisdom of the kind of beauty that feeds you and the kind of silence, the greatest of beauties, that refreshes you. Perhaps the greatest silence is love. So may that divine love be in our hearts, and we hope to see you somewhere, sometime soon.